After 4 years, Sam Wilson is finally back in his very own Captain America film, but does Captain America fly, or does it fall?
You want me? Come and get me!
What's up, guys? We just got back from seeing Captain America Brave New World, and man, do we have a lot to say about it.
We definitely have a lot to say, and I think it's fair to say both positive and negative, but there is a lot to say.
Absolutely, 100%. Unless you guys haven't been able to tell from our past videos, I am a huge Captain America fan. The Captain America franchise is my favorite franchise in the MCU because Captain America and his cast of characters are my favorite characters in Marvel Comics. I grew up reading Steve and Sam, and I love them both, and I love them both as Captain America. So, suffice it to say, I was super excited for this film.
And I was going to say, on top of the actual films themselves, I think it's fair to say that we both really love Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well.
Yes, it's one of my favorite Disney Plus series, if not my favorite, and I really love the arcs that both Sam and Bucky went on in that series. But saying that, I think it's fair to say that this film doesn't quite reach the same highs as those previous projects.
And with that said, I think there are some really high highs this film has that really deserve some praise.
Absolutely. I think Mackie is fantastic, as always.
Boom, cut the check!
He really is locked into the character of Sam Wilson, and this movie definitely, he got to Mackie-ify the character a little bit more. He got to show a little bit more of that funny charisma that we know from behind the scenes and interviews that Mackie, and you know, I met Mackie, so I know Mackie's a very funny guy, and he got to do a lot more of that comedy in this movie, and I think that really works for the character, especially where we find him in this film.
I think what's so great about Sam as a character, as we've seen him through the MCU, is the fact that he has, what you said, a lot of these different bromances and dynamics with other characters. You had him and Steve, you had him and Bucky, and now you have more so carrying over from Falcon and Winter Soldier, him and Joaquin, which is a huge highlight of the movie for me. It's just fantastic seeing the way his dynamics have evolved as he as a character evolves.
Yes, and I think not only that, but we definitely touch base with a lot of Sam's previous character moments in this film. Like, when we first met Sam in the Winter Soldier movie, he was a counselor for soldiers who are coming back from war. And he really got to play up that counselor aspect of his character that we love so much from that movie and the comics as well. So to kind of really see, and again, stuff like that is definitely helps to differentiate this version of Captain America from Steve Rogers and helps to make him his own Cap.
Which I think was very important. And that's something that Falcon and the Winter Soldier really laid the groundwork for, that this movie, in a way, kind of had to live up to.
Yes, and I think Mackie does a fantastic job of owning this film. I never found myself in the theater going, man, I wish Steve Rogers was here, because one, Sam to me is Captain America. The second that shield was handed over to Sam, Sam became Captain America, so I am here for his journey. I went into this movie excited to catch up with my friend Sam and to see his journey move forward, and I think this film did a very good job of making it Sam's movie. But that being said, I also really loved his number 2.
Yes!
Danny Ramirez is fantastic as Joaquin Torres. We got a little taste of him in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and he really fleshes out the character more in this film. And he is really funny, and he's also very charismatic. They have an interesting dynamic, because the dynamic between Steve and Sam was very serious. Sam always felt like he was trying to live up to Steve, right? Steve, like, they were partners, and Steve treated him like an equal, but in Sam's eyes, he always had to be on when he was with Steve. So with Joaquin, there's definitely a lighter banter there between the two of them, and they have their own unique dynamic, as opposed to, you know, like Sam and Steve, or Steve and Bucky, or even Sam and Bucky. And I really love that, and it's something so different and fresh with this film. Another point to bring up is that Harrison Ford was also really good in this movie, too.
Talk about another pair of shoes to have to fill.
Big red shoes, if you will. But it's so weird, right? Because Harrison Ford, especially when it comes to big franchises, he doesn't have the best track record of wanting to be involved with them unless they're Indiana Jones. But having him come into the MCU and taking over the role of a recently deceased actor, I was really wondering if he was there because he wanted to be there, or if he was there just for the paycheck. And he definitely showed up and he went to work in this movie.
Yes, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that. Obviously, we know Harrison Ford is a very talented actor, but one, you almost have to be concerned if it's going to be almost distracting, because he obviously does not look anything like William Hurt, which of course they make reference to.
Yeah.
But He really does put in a strong performance, and a performance that is really there and present the entire time.
Yes. I'm trying to figure out which old man performance I like more, him or Carl Lumbly. Carl Lumbly obviously is the better performance. He's fantastic in this movie, carrying over the role of Isaiah Bradley from Falcon and the Winter Soldier into this film. And man, if you loved him in that, you're going to love him even more in this, because he really gets to flesh that character out more.
He does, because he was easily one of the highlights of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Heartbreaking story.
It's so great to see another side of him in this film. Parts of it that are a little more lighthearted, and other parts that delve deeper into his psyche and what he's gone through. And he was just fantastic to watch.
Yeah, he's the emotional center of this movie. He's the heart of this film. You will care about, if you're going to care about any character in this movie, it's going to be Isaiah, and you're going to cheer for him. Your heart's going to break for him. Then you're going to be like, I don't know how to feel about this. And all of those things wrapped into one. He's definitely the emotional core of this movie, and it rested on no better hands than Carl, because he did a fantastic job. With those highlights, there do come many, many lowlights, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
While the expectations were sky high for this film, I think Icarus may have flown too close to the sun, and there was a lot of technical issues with this movie. I think the writing in particular was not great at all. I think the script was pretty bad, and there's some dialogue in the scene that's laughable.
Yeah, which is really unfortunate, because when you have the stronger performances like the ones we already mentioned, that is what really elevates those scenes when the dialogue is at its most clunky.
Yes.
But outside of those performances, it becomes so much more obvious. There's one scene in particular where one character kind of exposits something that happened, and another character in the very next scene exposits the exact same dialogue all over again, and it's really confusing.
Yeah, and beyond just the writing, I think it's very evident, like, we all heard the reshoot rumors, and whether they're true or not, something happened, because you could see the seams in this movie. You could see where things were reshot. There's continuity errors at the end.
Yes.
Like, it's from scene to scene. There's very clear green screen usage in this movie. In the year 2025, some of, honestly, the worst green screen usage I've seen in recent years, and that's really sad.
It's really unfortunate, and what compounds the scenes that have the green screen is the action that, I'm sorry to say, just feels a bit lackluster at times.
Yeah, I think they tried to stylize the action, but it feels so far removed from the action that we've previously had in other Captain America films that everything just falls really flat and looks very cartoony at times.
Yeah.
It's not great.
No, it's not particularly great. I don't think some of the sets for those scenes work 100% of the time, and just further compound some of the issues with them.
Yeah, and with the cobbled together scenes and with the cobbled together dialogue comes cobbled together characters. I feel like there are characters in here that were either added in reshoots or completely altered in reshoots. One is the character of Ruth, who I really don't feel like serves any major purpose in this movie other than kind of existing.
Yes, and honestly, the more they explain about her character, the less it makes sense in the grand scheme of her role and how she's playing into this movie.
Does she do things in the movie? Yes, but does she need to be there to do those things in this movie? Or do we need to follow her story? Not really. She really doesn't. And people will go, well, she's the Natasha element in this movie. But she's really not.
And even if she was intended to be so, I don't think she holds a candle to that character whatsoever.
No, and yeah, it just, that was a head scratcher to me. The character of the leader felt like they went through a bit of an overhaul. We saw promo images of the leader and Funko Pops, and the character looks completely different in the film. So did they change the prosthetics somewhere along the lines of shooting and then just changed his whole look?
Yeah, the whole usage of the leader was very bizarre. I feel like I understand what they were attempting to do with his character in the way he played an antagonistic role. I would venture to say I thought Tim Blake Nelson, who is a talented actor, was honestly more effective in the small amount of time he had in Incredible Hulk, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest problem with this movie, right? All of the characters, subplots, and motivations all link back to the Hulk. So they really don't do much to advance Sam's personal journey. There's this really interesting moment at the end where Sam has some dialogue with Joaquin, and it really had me in the theater scratching my head going, why is that not the emotional core? Why is that not the theme of this movie?
Yeah.
Because if it was, I didn't get that at all, really.
Yeah, because that's the other thing that's a bit confusing is the core themes of the movie are Sam still kind of trying to find his footing a bit with his role as Captain America, but the way they approach it, especially in comparison to Falcon Winter Soldier, just seems like the blandest take that just doesn't...
See, I would disagree. I would say that this movie is trying to tell us that everyone loves Sam as Captain America now, and they took away all that conflict that was interesting in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And even though we were kind of teased that there would be more pushback, everyone's just kind of like, Sam's the best, Cap. And I don't mind that for the character.
No.
It just feels like such a large leap. It feels like we've missed something somewhere.
We definitely did, because in hindsight, because it doesn't feel like it at this point, he was barely Captain America and Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Not even one entire episode.
Not even one entire day.
And obviously, at that point in that story, yeah, there was still more conflict going on. There was questions if people would accept him, because it was a very shocking moment, both in and out of universe. And where we start here, while obviously it has, I'm assuming, been several years, it's a very jarring jump.
It's a very jarring jump, and I don't mind playing fast and loose with continuity. I'm a comic book reader. I'm used to picking up issues and kind of jumping right into the story, but the MCU, I think, is playing a little bit too fast and a little bit too loose lately, and it's kind of them going, yeah, we messed up by waiting 4 years to do something with the Captain America character, so now this is what's been going on, and because of that, you get some of the most aggressive and hilarious exposition I've ever seen in a movie. Like, there's this one piece of exposition at the beginning of the movie that is supposed to be coming from a political analyst show, and it turns into a gossip column, and it had me laughing out loud in the theater, which is a shame because they used to at least try to find ways to have exposition be done creatively.
Yeah, or at least maybe be touched upon in other films that take place in between the works that center around those characters.
Yeah, and I think the visual style of this movie suffers a lot too. I think that the previous 3 Cap movies and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, they all had a unique visual style.
Yeah.
That looked very grounded. Whereas this movie feels very shiny.
Yeah, because I do understand when people talk about how you shouldn't make something just look gritty for the sake of it. Don't make it look overly saturated for the sake of it. But you want that to have some level of intentionality with shots, with the shading that had intentionality in all those former works that you mentioned. This, it kind of just feels like it's just doing it for the heck of it, but it doesn't fit the tone at all.
Which also hurts the set design, if I'm being honest, because there's some places that I'm just like, that's an interesting choice. Like, like Sam's Batcave. Like, Sam has a man cave, I guess, where him and Joaquin work out of. And I'm like, that's weird. We're just kind of here. And it's just like, okay, and then we're gone. I'm just like, that seemed like someone's office that they just added a bunch of Captain America merchandise in.
No, I feel like they were trying to do something with the visual storytelling with that, and while it was kind of nice, and this applies to a lot of aspects of the movie, it really was extraneous at best.
Yeah. I think the best thing I can say about this movie is that it's enjoyable. Like, you can bring your kids to this, and you will have a good time. Like, it's a very safe, very by-the-numbers Marvel movie. Very harken to, like, some of the Phase 1 stuff. I compared it to a lesser Iron Man 2, or Iron Man 2 adjacent. I think that's a good way to describe it. There's equally as many plot points running through this movie as there are in that movie, and it's a little all over the place in the same way. So I think that's a fair way to compare it. I think that's a fair movie to compare it to.
And I honestly very much agree with that assessment, because I would use the word standard to describe it ultimately, to where it's enjoyable enough, it has some good moments to it. It just honestly falls flat in some areas in very glaring ways.
With that being said, Nikki, on a scale of 1 to 5 Red Hulks or Rulks, what do you rate Captain America Brave New World?
I'm gonna rate it 2.5 out of 5 Rulks.
That's fair. That's very in the middle. For me, I think, like I said, it's a very safe movie, very play-by-numbers movie, but I still had a lot of fun with it. I still have a lot of fun with these characters. I really do love these characters, and I want to see more of them, and I want to see more of Sam as Captain America, because that's how good Mackie is. So that being said, I'm giving this film 3 Rulks out of 5. Go see Captain America Brave New World in theaters February 14th. If you guys like this video, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest content. If you want to check out our other reviews, click the link on the page. And until next time, guys, stay versed.